Welcome to the channel where we understand great works, not just read them. When we speak about the beginnings of literature, it is almost impossible to avoid the Epic of Gilgamesh, a work that stands at the very foundation of human storytelling. This ancient Mesopotamian epic poem, created more than 4,000 years ago, is considered one of the earliest surviving works of literature. It does not have a single identifiable author, but rather represents a compilation of Sumerian and Babylonian stories, later shaped into a unified narrative, most notably in the version attributed to 𝐓𝐡𝐞. As an epic, it belongs to a genre that celebrates heroic deeds while at the same time exploring universal human questions. Although it predates literary movements such as realism or romanticism, the Epic of Gilgamesh can be seen as a prototype of all later narrative traditions. On the surface, the story follows Gilgamesh, the powerful king of Uruk, a figure who is 2/3 divine and 1/3 human. Unlike many later heroes, he is introduced not as noble, but as deeply flawed, arrogant, oppressive, and disconnected from his people. This is crucial because the epic is not a celebration of perfection, but a journey toward self-awareness. The gods, responding to the suffering of the people, create Enkidu as his equal and opposite, a being of nature, untamed and innocent. Their initial confrontation soon transforms into a profound friendship, marking the beginning of Gilgamesh's transformation. Enkidu's transformation from a wild creature into a member of human society is guided by 𝐓𝐡𝐞, whose role goes far beyond that of a simple character. She represents the power of culture, connection, and human intimacy, showing that civilization is not only about structure, but also about emotional and social bonds. Through her, Enkidu becomes human, but at the cost of losing his original harmony with nature, introducing one of the epic's central tensions, the conflict between nature and civilization. As companions, Gilgamesh and Enkidu embark on heroic adventures, including the defeat of Humbaba, guardian of the cedar forest, and the slaying of the bull of heaven. While these events appear heroic on the surface, they reveal deeper motivations: human ambition, the desire to conquer, and the willingness to challenge divine order. Humbaba, in particular, is not merely a monster, but a symbol of nature's sacred boundary, and his death foreshadows the consequences of human overreach. Those consequences unfold through the goddess Ishtar, whose rejected love turns into destructive vengeance. Through her, we see that the divine world is not morally perfect, but driven by emotion and unpredictability. The punishment that follows the death of Enkidu becomes the emotional and philosophical turning point of the entire epic. Enkidu's death shatters Gilgamesh. For the first time, he confronts mortality, not as an abstract idea, but as a personal and terrifying reality. This moment drives the narrative into its second phase, a journey not of heroism, but of existential search. Gilgamesh sets out in pursuit of immortality, desperately trying to escape the fate that awaits all human beings. Along this journey, he meets Siduri, the tavern keeper, who offers one of the most important philosophical insights in the epic. She advises him to abandon his futile search for eternal life and instead embrace the simple joys of existence: food, love, companionship, and presence. Her message represents a worldview grounded in acceptance, standing in sharp contrast to Gilgamesh's restless ambition. Although he does not immediately accept her wisdom, her words echo throughout the rest of his journey. Eventually, Gilgamesh reaches Utnapishtim, the only human granted immortality after surviving a great flood. His story introduces one of the most important narrative parallels in the epic. The flood closely resembles the story of Noah in the Bible, suggesting a shared cultural memory or archetype of a universal human experience. These similarities show that themes of destruction, survival, and renewal were so fundamental that they appear across different cultures and religious traditions. The symbolism of the serpent is equally significant. After obtaining a plant that restores youth, Gilgamesh loses it when a serpent steals it. An image that strongly recalls the serpent in the story of Adam and Eve, where it represents the boundary between human limitation and divine possibility, as well as the loss of eternal life. In both narratives, the serpent highlights the inevitable consequence of humanity's desire to transcend its natural limits and challenge the divine order. This parallel with the Bible emphasizes the depth and timeless relevance of the Epic of Gilgamesh. Even thousands of years ago, humans were struggling to understand death, morality, fate, and the limits of human existence, questions that remain just as important today. Despite reaching the edge of the world, Gilgamesh ultimately fails to obtain immortality. Yet this failure is not meaningless, it is transformative. His journey shifts from external conquest to internal understanding. The themes of the epic become clear through this transformation. At its core lies the question of mortality, the inevitability of death, and the human desire to overcome it. Closely connected to this are themes of friendship, the tension between nature and civilization, the responsibility of power, and the search for meaning. The message becomes clear. Immortality is not found in eternal life, but in the legacy one leaves behind. When compared to later works, the Epic of Gilgamesh reveals its lasting influence. Gilgamesh resembles figures such as Heracles in strength and heroic feats, but also Odysseus in his journey of transformation and self-discovery. In the Odyssey, the journey shapes the hero, while in the Iliad, the focus is on glory and fate. Yet Gilgamesh goes further, questioning whether glory itself has meaning in the face of death. Similarly, in Faust, the human desire to transcend limits echoes his quest, showing that this struggle continues across time. From a stylistic perspective, the epic is characterized by repetition, symbolism, and elevated language typical of oral tradition. Its imagery forests, floods, journeys, and divine encounters creates a mythic atmosphere, while its dialogues reveal emotional depth and philosophical reflection. The simplicity of its structure is precisely what gives it universality and power. In the end, Gilgamesh returns to Uruk not as a conqueror, but as a man who understands. His transformation from a tyrant into a wise ruler represents the resolution of the epic's central conflict. He no longer seeks to escape death, but to live meaningfully within its limits. And perhaps this is the greatest lesson of the Epic of Gilgamesh, that human life gains its value not from its length, but from its depth. That friendship, experience, and legacy are what give meaning to existence. And that even the oldest story ever written still speaks directly to who we are today. Our fears, our hopes, and our search for meaning. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments below. Close the book, but keep your mind open. Understanding is just the beginning. I'll see you in the next great work.